we are on the lakefront in Sandusky, Ohio. I'm looking over there to the coal dock, but behind me, just a stone's throw away, would be the original site where Lay Brothers Fisheries existed for nearly a century.
So the commercial fishing on Lake Erie really began in earnest in the 1830s and here in the Sandusky Bay. And those would have been men going out with rowboats pulling seine nets behind them. So not large-scale catches. And it wasn't until 1851 with J. Spencer that we have the first commercial fisherman doing trap net fishing. About 18 years later, we have John Lay Sr. With his brother Jacob starting Lay Brothers Fisheries.
John Sr. was born to German immigrants in 1849. In his teens, he gets excited about the fishing industry and he forms a one-person fishing business. In 1869, he's 20 years of age, and he decides to get serious about forming a commercial fishing business. He invites his two other brothers to join him. This really becomes quite a startup.
At this point, they are tying into the ice harvesting in our Sandusky Bay as well, and being able to freeze and ship fish to what would become an international market. Now, by 1902, they've expanded the business enough, and Jacob Lay, the second brother, is ready to retire. So it's time for the second generation to come in, and this is where John Lay Sr.'s sons, John Lay Jr., Oscar, who's very important to our story, and Charles come in.
So this is 90% of the chrome. Some is, you know, you're gonna look at it and say, well, this looks pretty normal to a vintage 50s boat, exhaust rings, things like that. But other stuff, really manly, lifting rings / cleats, just huge. Some of the parts have to be disassembled for chroming. All of that will have to be taken apart and chromed, and then the tolerances have to be watched so that stuff fits back together. Some things that were done out of sort of cheapness would be like just a steel screw, rust. We'll replace that with stainless or something. And document that it wasn't that way. All of your horns and lights completely disassembled, rewired, tested, checked. But there's this one piece may have 20 pieces that have to be chromed. The biggest probably hardship is this light, which has cracks in it here that they can plate and resolder. But this was never meant to be disassembled. This lens is actually soldered in with these clips. So we have to unsolder all that. And then once it's chromed, solder it back without discoloring the chrome. And this little hinge is just a clip that's built in there. So this was made to be a one-time thing. 20 years later, just throw it out or whatever. But it's so cool, we definitely want to restore it. You're not going to find a light that looks like this. We want to try to maintain as much of what left the factory. Massive light. You have a flagstaff that goes here. You can get this out to replace the bulb. We also have a built-in cowl, which is ventilation, which is where obviously the bees like to get in there and make a nest. This is like, you don't want to lose this light, you don't want to break those lenses because it would be hard to find one of this size. This spotlight on the hardtop, some of them would have long rods to get back to the helm, but this one you can turn it and adjust it when it's hooked up here. You can turn it and spin it and do all this stuff.
Unlike many other businesses in the Great Depression, Lay Brothers Fisheries thrived because people were eating fish during the Great Depression. you know, you had insulated railroad cars that would be loaded with fish fillets, which was an innovation, you know, back in the Great Depression. And these fish fillets would be shipped via insulated railroad cars to faraway places like Maine and California.
At their peak, they had about 40 vessels, and again, were shipping to an international market. They were the largest inland freshwater fishery in the world, according to an interview done by John Lay Sr.'s grandson in the 1960s.
So in addition to Sandusky, they were running multiple subsidiaries: Port Clinton, Huron, Ashtabula, Ohio, you know, along with this, this partnership that Charles was involved with the Manitoba Fisheries Company. Now, interestingly, in 1939, a really important year for Oscar Lay, business is booming, and his younger brother, John Jr., and Oscar decide that they're going to go to Lyman Boat Works and buy Lyman's top-of-the-line boat. Now, at that time, Lyman was building specialty boats. The 24 Lyman Custom Runabout with an all-weather hardtop was a top-of-the-line boat. John Jr. buys his boat in the fall of 1939, and 19 days later, Oscar buys a very similar boat for himself.
We're going to pull the garboard back till the natural butt block about 16 feet, and the number 2 to its natural butt block at about 12 feet. Then the 3 just past the head water intake, and the 4 and 5 past the head pump out. When you see your planks coming out, even though the screws are out, they were still like that, and that's a surefire indication that something soft is in there, corroded in, that even with a big pipe wrench I could not break it free. So we're going to take both these planks out and take that with it. The butt block is also very tight to the frames. This has been in there for 80 years. Look at that. And I would prefer not to break these planks because they have curvature to them, and I don't want to have to spile. It takes a lot of time to do that. There's a plank. Look at that bronze.
Dang.
And I had a pipe wrench on that, and I was honking on it with my whole body, and it wouldn't turn off of that because it's threaded in there. It's that corroded. You can see this little dowel and another one here. There's one here, and usually they'll put another one somewhere in here. So the water comes in here and runs along here and swells that dowel up and stops the water from running all the way into the boat and leaking. And they're sort of effective.
Apparently not completely.
Right. Yeah, it's just a screw. Look at how corroded it is, though. I mean, there's just no threads left. So then I'll have to pull all the fasteners and do this same on the other side. Probably we'll put the front keel in first and leave the knee. And then a couple more of these will get pulled back so I can do the knee. But I get into the lap strake here, so I probably will try to stay away from taking these out, but we'll see.